their name, the two women who interrupted Bernie Sanders at the Westlake rally. And all of a sudden, I hadn't understood at all how racist Seattle was until that happened. And kind of saw the sit down, shut up, don't rock the boat. It's not your turn to ask for justice. And then it became the challenge of this, we can't tell the story without addressing racial injustice as well as all these other forms of injustice, because we're trying to build a world that reflects ours and reflects kind of at a basic systematic level all the different kinds of oppression that we experience. And then the last thing we wanted to do was be a bunch of white people sitting around trying to make a clueless statement about race without knowing what we were doing.
Right.
Which was the point that we invited people of color into the writing team and essentially said, we can't do this without you. But I still, there's that tension is ongoing. We want to make films, we want to make the world a better place, we want to tell stories that change the world, whether it's, hey, gaming is for everyone, or hey, let's treat everyone well, whatever the case, beyond the scope of gaming, whatever the case might be, how do we ride that line? Where are we messing up? Because privilege makes us blind. That's not a rhetorical, that's an actual question. Like, what can we do better? What are we messing up? Where do we need to invite more voices in? Where do we need to open up? Where do we need to step back?
You mind if I answer and piggyback on that? Is my day job, I wear a badge for a living. So when Black Lives Matter happened, cis white het dude with a badge, I was popular. But what I saw was my company made an immediate shift to market, to include people of color. And I'm wondering, could DG, ZOE, and all that somehow market, advertise towards people directly like that, or was it?
So,
that's a gray area, because that's when it starts walking that line between, are you trying to be inclusive or are you trying to sell a product to people?
And
are you marketing to them because you want the token person of color or transgender or non-het, whatever you're trying to market towards? It gets gray. It gets kind of icky feeling, in my personal opinion.
That's the piggyback question. Thank you for that answer.
I do think inclusion and what Zombie Orpheus is doing by opening up the universes to collaborators is perhaps one of the smarter answers to this. That you can't force a minority perspective when you do not have it. However, you can include people in that have that perspective, and you guys are already doing that. But moreover, just encouraging and facilitating people to join that circle when they do have maybe kind of socioeconomic, troubles.
I want to tell a story about casting for Strowlers. Because what we heard for years is that it is incredibly difficult to cast people of color in Seattle. That they don't show up for auditions. Or that a couple show up and they're not very good. I've heard everything. And Samara works as an acting teacher throughout Seattle and does a ton of work in South Seattle. She basically started talking to her friends and within the acting community, and what we learned during that process is, which should have been obvious and it wasn't, that if a role does not specifically state race, people will legitimately assume that it's going to be cast as a white person. And we had to completely redo how we cast. We had to be explicit and say, we are casting people of color, you are invited, you are welcome, we're not whitewashing these roles, and then beyond that, had to go out and talk with people and invite them. And she put in a huge amount of work, and the result was that we discovered there's a huge group of talented people of color in Seattle who are phenomenal actors, and there's absolutely no reason that they shouldn't be in everything. But it took immense work because there's, if you go out for role after role after role after role and it goes to just a white person every time, you're eventually going to get the message that casting directors are casting white people. So, it's been an ongoing process and evolution for us to learn. No, it's not. We can't sit here and say, well, only white people showed up, so we only cast white people. No, it's on us. We've got to go out there and make the effort if we want to be inclusive, and if we want to show that gaming is for everyone, and if we don't want to show movies that are whitewashed, living in worlds where people of color don't exist. It takes effort, actual effort.
That's where you start walking the line between, are you marketing because you want, or are you inviting because you want inclusion? Like that's tough, and I wish I had an answer for you.
Yeah. We've been working.
Matt, you have a question?
Oh, wait.
I'm sorry, I'll rant forever.
Not a question. It's actually on the subject of astrology. One of the reasons I think it's so wonderfully, gently subversive is that there's an interesting dichotomy in film, in that film is a poor medium for ideas. And let me qualify that as in, if an audience feels lectured to, they will shut off and disengage. It's easy for them to disengage. So film is a poor medium for ideas, but the perfect medium for emotion. And just like reading creates empathy because it allows you to imagine the experience of another, when film is done well, actors are cast in parts that they resonate with, and you give them the freedom as a director, as a production team, you create that atmosphere of permission, and they are themselves. It creates that empathy, it creates that emotion, and it creates that effect there. You get the point across. It's the difference of standing there and lecturing you about what's wrong versus showing, my God, how these poor people.
So, one of the Abby, a member of our Strahler story team, the story for our first episode really came out of her experiences. She survived 9/11, went off, joined the military, fought for years, came back just as her son was turning 13, looked 18, and sitting there worrying every day that her baby was going to be shot because he looked like an adult, and that first episode came out of her saying, how do we create empathy for this? For worrying about what's going to happen to my child because of a trigger-happy police officer who would get away with murder, and all we could do was basically listen and say, yes, you're right. This is the heart of this story. How do we tell it? How do we make it real? And how do we do it in a way that isn't exploiting those fears, for white entertainment?
Is there any plans on any sort of maybe documentary? And I know you're talking about, the audience tunes out when you lecture, but as a part of the RPG research group, we do a lot of the studying of the films. We've watched all the gamers, and we watch a lot of documentaries. Nobody's putting this in a positive light. The progression we're making, it's still 35-year-old men in their mom's basement, people who game way too much during the week, and it damages their lives. Is there any plan on really exposing what really is going on now with the gaming and the community?
I mean, from the DG ZOE perspective, documentary is very hard for us.
Okay.
It includes skill sets that we don't have internally, which means we have to hire them externally, which makes it very expensive.
Okay.
Because we're able to do a lot of what we do because we don't have to pay ourselves what we would pay. Like I can finish the editing on a film and not pay myself, and that's fine.
Right.
I can't finish a documentary.
David Attenborough was expensive.
You're right.
But you do good mockumentaries, and you could approach it that way.
Well, we had to hire someone for that.
Yeah. Well,
'Cause
on
I
top of
couldn't
that,
do it.
though, I mean, I don't know what you're going for or what you want out of a documentary for that, painting gaming in a positive light. But it's not a documentary. But isn't that what we're doing with the gamers? I mean, I feel like
Yes,
that's our goal.
but your audience still stays within these walls. It still stays within these people.
Well, we're
seeking
working
out
on
that
that.
entertainment. I know.
Well, I think that also gets back into the inviting people in. In this generation, in the millennials, if you will, we're not into advertising. We're not into commercials. I mean, I pay $9.99 to Google, so I don't have to watch ads on YouTube. Like, I will give you money so you don't advertise to me. That's where I am. But if my best friend says, oh, you really need to check out this movie, I will go and I will look it up. I will check it out. Or, like, I've been talking to vendors, and people that I've known for 5 minutes, they're like, oh, I recommend X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pull up my phone and look that up because you seem really cool. That's our generation. We are going back to word of mouth. And I think it kind of comes down to everyone being like, talk to your friends, talk to people you don't even know who might seem interested in this. Like, I have made so many good friends just by being like, oh, you like this book? Or, oh, you know what my tattoo means? Oh, let's talk. That's...
Tribal knowledge has been a center point of humankind since the beginning.
Well, and to piggyback on that, we have the internet now. We can reach anyone.
Tribe is big.
Tribe is big.
That's the thing, people like Seth Godin talks about this, the notion of tribes and how really it's about raising the banner for the tribe to gather. Zombie Orpheus is essentially that banner, the one raising it. When people start gathering around that, the notions of critical mass and things like that do happen. And I do realize that's like it's a weird thing when you've been doing this for a decade or more, and you're thinking about critical mass and you're like, well, when, right? Or like, is it now? It hasn't happened yet, right? But I would say that it hasn't really. Like,
Travelers is actually a really, in my opinion, a good progression because it's very hard for me to see someone liking Journey Quest and knowing why Cast Milk is funny without playing role-playing games. But I don't think you need to have played role-playing games at all to enjoy and get the message of Travelers.
I actually... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, there are 2 documents. One is in production. I just handed him a button for. It's called Looking for Leia. It's talking about the change in the society and our community within gaming, geek culture, etc., and bringing women to the forefront with strong role models as well as inclusivity and whatnot. It is a phenomenal film. I got to see a lot of it get filmed over at Geek Girl Con and did a couple interviews with them. I strongly suggest people check it out. Looking for Leia. The other one I have not seen. I have only heard the premise of it, but it's talking about how society has changed enough to bring about things that would not be acceptable 20 years ago. And that was done by White Wolf Publishing. They have Vampire the Masquerade, the documentary. It's very, very select theaters, most of them in Europe, but they're slowly bringing it over here, and it covers a lot of what you were just talking about.
I'd like to point out, 30 years ago, comic books and stuff were very, very not socially acceptable conversation pieces, let alone D&D or other tabletop RPGs, and now you have things like Big Bang Theory. Our biggest yearly movies are almost always Marvel movies. Critical Role has millions of views a week.
That's the thing.
We are hitting critical mass. I mean, for male and female representation, and it's kind of awesome to be a part of that.
I wonder what it feels like to have millions of views a week.
Fair.
Some of it's also happening organically, just what I've seen. So we went to our first Gen Con, just a few years ago, and we were at the Tower of Gygax, which is always a good time. And my friends and I sitting there, and then we see some girls who are under 20 just walk up to the table, and they're welcomed and treated just like anybody else. And that was, when someone who started with first edition AD&D, that was, when it was totally not like that. We're still kind of seeing that sort of thing going around, and younger girls getting into comics. So it's just okay, and you've got bands like the Double Clicks, I'm sure some people know of, who are also kind of promoting that broader narrative that, hey, that's all of us.
Let me ask a question. Are we doing enough? Like, we're sitting here, small company making movies. Does it actually matter? Would we be more effective if we were doing direct advocacy? Would we be more effective if we were out in the streets every day with signs? I mean,
How many people listen to the
yes,
guy who says repent, the end is near?
I mean, yes, we're making social progress, but we're also making regress. In America right now, we have families who are being torn apart every day. ICE tore two parents away from their kids' cancer ward over this last week. This is happening in America right now. We're sitting here making movies. Are we doing enough?
No one can ever do enough, right? You can always do more.
Yeah.
This button could have been a person.
We put so much energy and effort into this, but then you look at, yes, it's nice to think about 20 years down the road, ideally demographics will have changed enough, but what about the lives that are being destroyed right now?
Well,
You only change minds on the margin, though. You only flip people if they're already getting close to flipping. And if you're interested in one of these in the movies, and then suddenly you get to one that makes you think differently, that's when you have the chance to change someone's opinions on the margin. So you need those things. Direct action isn't the only way, and it isn't. Sometimes people actually get stronger in their opposition when they're faced with that.
It's a bit like being a first responder. You're trained that you got to keep yourself safe. You can't do direct action. You have to keep yourself safe before you can go save somebody else, because otherwise there's two people to save now. The two people that are yanked out of the cancer ward, really, at this point, what can we do?
Well, we can have a group of 50 of their friends and neighbors standing in between them and ICE at the hospital saying, you're not going to take them today.
But how do you get those 50 people? But by changing minds, raising awareness through a palatable format such as your films.
and ZOE's done a lot. I mean, you guys have reached, I heard about you guys while I was in the Army. And when I was in the Army, I was infantry. So of all the places that you wouldn't expect to be exposed first to ZOE, for me it was in the infantry. That's how I first heard about you guys. And in fairness, I haven't watched the entirety of Gamers. Nigel's given me a hard time about it, but I knew about the films and I knew they were being filmed in Tacoma. And being a part of the gamer community, I was extremely excited about that. And since it was passed around in the barracks, I mean, there were people that never would have thought about going into gaming and entering that more open-natured culture that is gamers than would have ever happened otherwise if you guys hadn't have made your films.
John?
So, I mean, Ben and Don and Matt know that I come from a theater background. I come from a playhouse, like the playhouse. What you're doing is making entertainment that lasts. The message that you wrote 20 years ago, the message that you wrote 12 years ago, the message that you wrote 3 days ago, affects and changes the people that witness it now. We're presenting Glass Menagerie was written in 1936. but it's moving the audiences now with this message of how it affects people now. There's a woman in it that is crippled, doesn't want to be said that she's crippled. Well, that's the message in 1936, it's the message now. There's a moment in it when a man says you need to be kissed, kisses her, and immediately there's a recoil from that. The message now is different than the message in 1936. But your message affects and will continue to affect because of what's affecting you now. Make the entertainment, let your heart be on the film. And allow it to affect others that hit it when they encounter it. And your message and that things will happen. What you need to do on your level and our level, in every way that we can, is I can't politicize my playhouse to do that, but I can keep presenting entertainment that has that content. We also did American Idiot. We lost 20 people during the course of it. They left an intermission and said it was trash. But we also filled every seat in that theater with someone who was younger that needed that message right now. Present the entertainment that you got. Politicize within yourself, but then do the things for yourself outside with the platform that you have. People listen to you, Ben. People listen to Don. People listen to Matt. They listen to you on a personal level. Let your entertainment be entertainment, but by God, let your message be a beacon for who you are personally. Never change that.
It comes down to the community that you're building. And by being more inclusive, like things like Strowlers. I messaged a 19-year-old man last night that I've seen perform amazing slam poetry and was like, here's the wiki, look at this. I can guarantee that boy has never touched a set of dice. I mean, it's not his thing. But I was like, inclusion, build that community, because he's an artist and I feel in my soul that he is going to change the world.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Strowlers can help him on that.
Yeah.
Like that's...
So, Ben, there's two things going on here. And I think it's, you have always struggled with reconciling the two, and that is, we're artists and we create art. But there is also a mission for justice and, and political action.
Well, and we've moved in, we are in an emergency right now in terms of justice. This is not business as usual. Well, I mean, it's not business as usual for white people. It's business as usual for people who've been caught up by the industrial prison complex since the drug war began in the 1970s.
So do your movies, make your message, build the community, and we will hear you and we will act.
That's the point. I think that what I'm hearing is done wonderful job and it's working to build a community, but I think the question is, what is the community for?
I guarantee there are young men that identify with Cass, and when they got to the end of Hands of Fate, had to start thinking about that.
Oh, they were pissed on YouTube.
I'm sure there were people that
Not everybody was.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm sure that there were people that, because I used to have nice guy syndrome, and honestly, Buffy the Vampire Slayer changed the way I thought about things to a tremendous degree. That's not where I stopped changing. It didn't have a complete message. That's not, but it started the process for sure, for a huge amount of personal change. And I would find it hard to believe that people seeing Cass come to that realization, and hopefully that goes on. Like, he actually has to do some soul searching now that he's had the realization that he was an asshole. So yes, I think that things like that are helping, and that's where I say on the margin, you're changing people on the margin. The people that are going to go leave an angry YouTube comment aren't on the margin. They're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
But again, just only because it's my background. When we chose this season, it seems like just a season, but the actors that acted in it understand the message. We started with Wait Until Dark. If you don't think that's a suburban message, it is. Then we did Alice in Wonderland. Then we did Christmas Carol. Then we did American Idiot. Now we're doing Steel Magnolia. I mean, we're doing Glass Menagerie. Next we're doing Peter and the Starcatcher, whose most important character in it is a girl named Molly that says even girls can dream. Then we're doing Little Shop of Horrors. we're submersive within our message, and the people that want to see that message and will allow themselves to be affected by it will carry that banner. And next year, we're going to do Angels in America Part 1 and 2. Because we can provide entertainment. People that want to see that slanted moment, and we'll take that message and carry it, we'll see it.
Well, here's what I wanted to put in, kind of piggybacking off of your earlier awesome comment. You guys planted a seed 10 years ago. Like, I'm evidence of that, right? Matt, Ben, I met you guys when I was in high school, and you just kind of patted me on the back, said, yeah, man, you can make a film. We did it. Come on. We just got a summer camp, and we filmed a B-rated horror film, right? We knew it was going to be B-rated, but who cares, right? We did it. And me and my friends, we'd go around with a Sony camcorder, like editing in camera with the plus and minus thing, making commercials of Mountain Breeze that Safeway would never hire us to actually hear. But we did it anyways because we thought, commercials like Surge were kind of funny if we, gave it a twist or something like that. Well, anyways, that encouragement kind of made me go on to find, many different niches that I could find. And then right now I'm coming back going, hey, this is beautiful what you guys have continued to create, right? And let's just add more fuel to the fire, right?
I just wanted to add, on the note of planting a seed, like I said earlier, John's the one who got me introduced to your product, and without that, there would be no Nerdarchy for me. We've got this website, it's our huge creation, we're here for press, we got invited to other cons and everything. That seed was planted by you.
And to piggyback on that, he's talking Nerdarchy, I'm talking RPG research. Are you guys doing enough? I think so. I just was wondering about documentaries in general, but the seed for me was planted before 2012 was a major year of tragedy for my life. And before then, the gamers was just entertainment, playing games was just entertainment. Then it helped me heal. It helped me socially get back into things. And I'm sitting here in Bellevue, Washington. Last year, this time I was in South Bend, Indiana, in red state, very oppressed, trying to change my mind, trying to change the direction I've been given by the elders in a place like that. So are you guys doing enough? I think so. I think let's be patient for you too.
As far as what the community is going to do, I know personally I am doing my best to not be a megaphone, basically. Go out, find people who are oppressed and say, listen to this person. You need to hear this story. That's what I want to do, and you guys have inspired me to do that. Like, okay, 17 years ago, you were 5 guys in a room drinking Mountain Dew. Great. Look what you've done now. Yeah. That tells me, okay, I am turning, 30 next month, but I can still do so much. And that's the message you guys display. So yes, please keep doing what you're doing. Get better, be more inclusive. Yes, do all these things, but please keep making your content.
Can we, she's been waiting patiently.
So, Ben, on your comment about, I have a lot of things to say, so just bear with me. On your comment about the angry YouTubers, like about Cass, you can, my bet is that a lot of them were angry because they saw so much of themselves in there, but often when I feel angry about something I've seen, it's like because I'm angry at myself, but I feel like taking it out on the person who put that up there for everyone to see, and I feel like suddenly in watching it on my phone or my computer, they're attacking me personally. It becomes so personal, but I'm betting you that a lot of those YouTubers are like, God, I'm an asshole. This sucks. I need to change, and I'm betting that you've changed some of those lives just through without even knowing it.
And I'm hoping that's the point I got across up here with what I was saying, is that's who I was just not too long ago, and I had to face the fact. I was angry myself.
And they're not going to admit it publicly, most of them. And the other thing I want to say is I was talking to Matt at breakfast and just saying, look around you at this community that you have built since Demon Hunters. One, when Victor was running around in purple ninja outfit, and you could easily tell the difference between like who was wearing the purple. Was it Nathan or was it Victor?
Some people couldn't tell the difference.
And Chris Oden was watching out his dorm window saying, what a bunch of dorks.
Yeah.
But look what you've done. And look at the voices that you've given people who felt like they didn't have a voice.
Well, and come on, to piggyback on that, Demon Hunters, we started out saying a message, as dorky as it was. We started out coming out swinging.
And they still resonate.
They do.
You know?
So give your guys, so you can't, the change that you're talking about making takes so much time.
It does.
And it's frustrating when you're like, it was even worse 50 years ago, and we have that privilege of not knowing what it was like. And so the difference I try to focus on now is the message I'm trying to send my kids and my friends and the kind of person that I want to be. But just resonate in what you've done and the community you're building now and throughout the generations. Because of the internet, the gamers and Demon Hunters and Strowlers and all other future projects are going to be around for a very long time and continue to affect people.
When I was a kid, my grandfather told me that little things affect change. And a lot of little things affect massive change. So it's a pebbles in the pond. Eventually the pond fills up. And you guys are boulders. Every one of your movies, every one of your projects is a boulder that hits that lake and creates a wave that resonates all the way through here and through the decades. Changes livelihoods, changes people, changes hearts. Make your art, let it live.
I'm going to go to Dawn, and then it's time for us to wrap up and move on to Matt Vansel's...
I have that at 12:30.
Oh, 12:30?
30, so I think we've got a few more.
Oh, I guess we do have a few more. Great.
Okay, so I want to go back to the notion that we're artists and we create art, and we also are in a state of emergency and need to affect change immediately.
Yeah.
This is a really big problem, and it will not happen on the timeline we need it to by creating art. That's not going to happen. That doesn't mean we should not create art. And what you're doing with Strowlers, what I'm planning on doing with Demon Hunters, you know, what we have going in Gamers and in Journey Quest, these are stories that have obviously affected people. I'm thinking in another example that has personally changed me forever is the series Sense8. And Sense8 is something that okay, maybe it's got its flaws in this and that or the other, but it tackles this very issue that we have been talking about inclusivity and changing the world and dynamics and social justice and all that stuff in a way that changed my mind and saw things I never thought I'd see. In fact, I was telling my wife, that scene we just watched has to be the hottest thing I've ever seen. And it was this wonderful gay scene, and it was world changing. And then we went to the gay pride, parade in Mexico, and there was this massive outpouring of, a guy who basically sacrificed everything, his career and everything, to be who he was and be authentic, and got seriously slammed for it and abused. And they're telling that story. They took a chance and told that story. And I guarantee you, I'm not the only one that was affected by that. And I think that's what you're doing with Strowlers. It will take longer than we want. It will.
Yeah.
But I think we absolutely have to do it.
In the light. We've had cranberries for so long.
No, it actually hasn't been that long. I just got in here because I forgot this was happening.
Oh, okay.
One of the things I wanted to mention is quality versus content. I read, some of you might have spotted me previously, and the thing is that my ex-husband and I in South Dakota had this crazy idea for a web series, and we shot it in front of the garage, and when we got done with it, we went, wow, this actually isn't that bad, because if you go back and watch Demon Hunters, but I mean, it looks better than Demon Hunters, and we did this shit in a garage, oh my god. And so our message was non-existent. It was literally just people in a garage that was a bar and crap. But it was one of those things where, because we had watched Gamers, because we had seen Demon Hunters, because we had seen that, we took that chance of going, okay, we've got a guy with a camera, we've got like 5 friends, like 8 friends who want to make a film, let's do this. And we did it. We made 7 episodes of a web series, to the point of where we actually went back and did a 2nd season where we're going, hey, this looks better than Gamers 1. Wow! I mean, dude, we got a real set, we got lights, I had food to feed people. And the main thing was is that we learned from coming and seeing them. So when Ben's sitting here going, we went to Ireland and we filmed for $5,000 and we made a movie, and oh my god, it's like, that's the point. When you see your shit quality and oh my god, I can't believe we did that, did you see the makeup, oh, the lighting, those are the things that inspire those wackos from South Dakota to go, well, shit, we've got a camera, they can do it, we can do it. And that's where you get that push, is because now you have people who can make the content. You have those people all over. So Strowlers, Demon Hunters, those shared cinematic universes are amazing because of the way you have changed your content from 5 white guys sitting in a dorm room to even just going to Gamers 3, where now you've got women more prevalent, and it's women of agency. You've got Gamers season, Gamers the series, where it's like, there's not a straight white boy sitting at the table, and I'm going, oh, representation of everybody else. I mean, then it's making people like me who are going, wow, I'm sitting in South Dakota in the middle of DAPL. This is a story that needs to be told. Oh, hey, there's this Strowlers thing. This is a story that can hit that universe, can hit that world. But I'm not the one that should write it. I'm the one that should find the people who should write it to make sure that the right voice is presenting the right story. And that's what you guys are doing, is not only are you enabling the people to have that courage to go, I can make the content, you're enabling the people to have the courage to find the people who should make the content, who don't know, to share, to make the community bigger, to bring new fans in for anything and everything, and drag them over to the booth and go, no, you get hugs. That's what you guys have done. You have made a family, you have made a community, you've done more than just make movies. You have made something huge that is going to continue to push, because we aren't going to stop. It's not you as the creator that's going to ever slow down. It's us as the fans. We're not going to let you. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep shoving. And we're going to keep putting money down your throats, because some of us have control issues and impulse problems when it comes to money management. So realize...
We may have to reanimate you, but this will keep going.
It'll really
So
be.
what you're saying is that my fantasy of quitting in 2 or 3 years to go focus on music is going to be a challenge.
Yeah. You can do music.
Well, everyone else just get started making a replacement now.
But that's the thing, is that I'm hoping you guys always remember that no matter what you do, we love you. And that's why we're here, because you've learned from your past and what you've done, and you work to make sure you're doing it the best you can.
You're not nice guys anymore.
I don't know if you ever were.
So, art takes time. Movies take time, the distribution takes time, the writing, the creation, that takes time. But what you do have is what you also carefully built, is who you are as a person. And there's a lot of people here that follow your Facebook pages, that follow your Twitter accounts, that follow your blogs, that follow that advocacy is immediate. If they care about your art, they'll find you. And if they find you, that means they want to hear your voice. It's that celebrity cachet that comes with it. And it's what you choose to do with that. And there's a number of celebrities on the world, Robert Downey Jr. and others, that choose, Patrick Neil Harris, that choose to use that cachet that doesn't affect their art that they're already subversing with what they want to do. The art takes time. Your advocacy, like I see on your Facebook page every day, which touches my heart and changes my world every day, man, is immediate. If the people who care about the artists that create the art, they'll find you and your message is tangible and immediate, then you're making change every day while you create your art. It's the balance, it's the two pillars that drives us. I do the same thing, and so do you. Your voice is immediate, people will come to it. Create your art, let that last. But get your message out there, because you're more than a pebble in a pond.
How do we find your web series set in your garage?
No. there are some ways. If you can find me and ZOE on a platform that would be integral for that, then maybe you can find. I'm not giving that out.
But it's better than Demon Hunters, so.
I leaned into Matt and I said, should I tell the story? And he goes, yeah, you absolutely should. So about 12 years ago, my mother passed away. It was horrible. And I got sucked into World of Warcraft for about 6 months. I couldn't do anything. And I was playing, and here comes a warlock or something, and his name is Dwamerthrax. And I just went, oh my God. Like, I have to talk to this person. So I messaged him and I said, interesting name. I'm assuming it's a him. It could have been a girl. I don't know. And he goes, yeah, it's the most badass demon. And I said, really? I'm just playing dumb. And he goes, yeah, it's Demon Hunters by Dead Gentleman. Have you heard of him? It's so awesome. And I was like, oh my God. And I said, well, you're probably going to think I'm full of shit, but my husband is Dwamerthrax. And he goes, nuh-uh. And I said, no, seriously, ask me any question. He wrote the script and he helped film it, and he's Dwamerthrax. Ask me any question, and I guarantee you I can answer it. So he starts firing questions at me, and I'm answering, and he's like, he started freaking out, and he was kind of talking to Dwamerthrax, and here he is running around with Dwamerthrax above his head. So even though, like, I know we watch Demon Hunters, and it's super painful sometimes, but even those make a difference.
What was I
on? How
on?
much bourbon we've had to drink. No, but even, like, the things that we think don't make a difference, they do. You guys have such a huge impact. And I'm not a gamer necessarily. Like, I learn still so much from you guys. And I'm sort of in that world a little bit, but Journey Quest and gamers and Pwned, like, you guys have just made such a difference in so many lives, and just please don't forget that.
I actually have a reverse story of that. And I can't believe I'm going to tell this in the middle of a... Okay. I was at Gabby's, just hanging out, because that's what she does. And Christian Doyle walks in. And I immediately freeze. Like, I'm sitting on the couch having a conversation, just, oh, how's it? My eyes never left him, and I was like, oh my God, Christian Doyle's in my comic book store. This is really cool. Oh, he's talking to Gabby. I know Gabby. I have like a one-way connection to him now. This is really weird. And then did not say a word until he was out the door, and I was like, I love Journey Quest! Came back and was like, oh, thank you. Are we back to Kickstarter? I'm like, yes! Goodbye forever! Fangirl.
I fangirl with Brian all the time. Who
doesn't?
I tell him, like, stop hurting Carol.
Well, and he's not the one writing it.
No, I tell him. I'm sorry. I don't like
Sorry, I
it.
misunderstood. I have not yet begun to hurt Carol.
Brian!
I still get weirded out. Like, I've got Brian on my Facebook, friends and everything. And almost every night I get the ding, Brian Lewis is nearby. I'm not sure where, but I know it's within my blocks.
Brian's sense is tingling. Does he know about that? Because
I'm pretty sure he's been dinged for me.
Okay.
You know, we're on the friends list because we always wanted to do an interview because, Nerdarchy and all that. But it's just like, scheduling, timing, stuff like that.
Speaking of Journey Quest, why is everybody forgiving Nara for betraying Caro? Why is Caro the one?
Not everyone.
Why is Caro the one who's
I had
apologizing?
problems with that scene. There was shouting, possibly throwing. Not going to talk about that TV.
might have cathartically killed off an NBC.
But I mean, the whole fan community. I was going around taking selfies with the guys yesterday because I was like, I'm a fangirl, that's what I do. But it was really kind of meaningful to me that I took one with Matt, and in the picture, he's not looking at the camera because I'm holding it like this, and I have a Rat Queen's tattoo. Woo! And he was like, oh my God, is that a Rat Queen's tattoo? Oh my God, is that the Bitch Planet Rat Queen's tattoo? And I'm like, yes. And so there was a moment of like equal, I won't say fangirling, but fanning. And it was like, okay, we're on the same level. You guys are people too.
Peers.
Yeah, very approachable. Last night I was on the phone with my wife, who's still back in Spokane. She wasn't able to make it here. Brian ended up with a moment outside alone. I was at the bachelor party there, and I'm like, hey, can you just say hi real quick? And he was like, sure, yeah, hey, where are you at? Oh, I'm so sorry. So you guys have been very approachable and kind.
But that helps the community because, you know, I can walk up to any of you guys and be like, can I take a selfie because I'm super awkward? And you're like, yeah, sure. So, yeah.
And that,
now I'm rambling. So
and that inclusion is probably the primary way to spread the message. Like, by continuing to have that attitude to welcome people, that's how that
circles back to that inclusion.
So I'm horribly introverted. If I don't know you, I won't approach you, but please feel free to talk to me.
One of the things that has happened on a couple of things, because I've been around. I've been around.
You don't have to tell everybody.
Hey, if I could,
The statute of limitations has run out on some of that yet.
Tony keeps yelling about 50 feet. I'm like, no, not you, bitch. But one of the neat things that I've been able to be part of is being that gatekeeper at some of those filming events where people are like, oh my God, Kristen Doyle just walked by. And it's like, yeah, did you get a hug? And they're like, you what? And it's like, oh, no, we're gonna go get a hug right now.
I saw this at Gen Con. We were at the booth, Red's there, and there's this girl who I don't think she's out of high school,
Samantha.
and she's wearing Ren's first season cosplay, and she sees Emily there and has frozen. It's just that paralyzed deer in the headlights. There's love, but also I don't want to offend anyone. And Ren's like, oh, come here, honey. And it just carries her right over to Emily. Emily, hi, I love your costume. And you can see the hearts go up above the head.
There was one that was a little bit more than that because me and another fan were sitting there chatting at the Gen Con booth, and there was this another little high schooler who made it about 5 yards from the booth and just stopped, and just all of a sudden here, I just can't, and she starts walking away, but she just spun every time she started walking away to look back at the booth with this like longing, like I'm not worthy, and I'm like, did she just leave without getting a hug? And Cole's like, yeah, she did. And I was like, go get her. So big man goes like, hey, come here for a second, come and talk. And she comes over and I'm like, have you signed my book? So she takes my book and she's like, but I'm not anybody. I was like, you're here. You're important. You're a fan. You matter. Sign my book. So as she's signing the book, Coley goes over and grabs Christian and Matt and Doob, and just all of a sudden they're like surrounding her. So by the time she looks up, she's like, but it's like the like little face, it's just like the eyes go wide and you can hear this screaming at the back of her head, and Christian goes, can I get a picture with you? And then her brain emptied out the side of her skull, and she's like, yes? And so Nathan Coles, I was calling her to take it selfie, was like, hang on, I need one. And then, you know, it was just this moment, like she could not at all. And she just stood there for about 10 minutes afterwards when everybody's like, okay, well, you make sure you have a good night, or you know, a good day, because she was just, there was nothing that could happen for this poor girl. Nothing. And that's the thing that I love about the fan community is that we don't let people walk away.
We look out for each other.
We go, no.
We see our people, and we're like, no, you're one of us. You need to come here, honey. We're gonna.
Exactly.
I'd like to say something about the
Actually,
approachability.
that was really awkward as Ben was like walking down the aisle.
I'd like to say something real quick about the approachability thing that you talked about. That has to do, I remember when we were going to Gen Con like in the first couple of years or whatever that we ended up going, it didn't occur to us at all not to talk to people, engage, and you know, it makes a lot of sense for us to go, oh my God, that's Joss Whedon, or oh my, you know, totally fanboy on, you know, actual, and have that experience. And then when people started to do that with us, I don't think it really registered. I don't know if I can speak to everybody on that, but to us, it was just like, oh no, we're fans too, and you know, and it was just, it just never entered our minds from that point.
On that, we are at the point where we need to get ready for Matt's panel. You have a panel
Yes, I do.
on role-playing games with
Role-playing
Sater
games.
there. Thank you all so much. Huge thank you to all the panelists for sharing your thoughts.